Hi, my name is Miss Erin from C.C. Mellor Memorial Library, and I'm here for today's middle grade moment, where we're going to talk about 3 books that are great for readers ages 9 to 12. All 3 of these books are available for checkout on Hoopla, which is an ebook platform that also has audiobooks, video, comics, and more. So, the 3 books that I thought we could talk about today are all books that have non-traditional kinds of narratives. There's something that are called epistolary novels. So an epistolary novel is a book that's told either through letters or journals or other kinds of documents, like other ways that we communicate now, like emails or text messages or maps or notes that are left around. So let's get started. Let's look at these books. The first one that I want to share with you is called Dear Mr. Henshaw, and it's by Beverly Cleary. So this book was written in 1984 when there weren't any emails, there weren't any text messages, and even making a long-distance phone call was really expensive, so people didn't do it very often. So this book follows Lee Botts, who has been asked by teachers in most of his school to write to a favorite author. So he picks Mr. Henshaw, who wrote his favorite book ever, Ways to Amuse a Dog. And Mr. Henshaw sounds like he writes back, but we don't ever actually see his letters. What we hear instead are Lee, when he writes back and answers Mr. Henshaw's questions, or writes back and says, "Thanks for writing back, but I understand that you're really busy. I'm sorry that I'm bothering you again." Eventually, Mr. Henshaw gives Lee some suggestions on how to write books himself. And so Lee starts writing in a journal instead. He's still addressing it to Mr. Henshaw, though, because he doesn't feel like he could write Dear Diary. So he writes to Dear Mr. Henshaw. But Lee is dealing with a lot of emotions. His parents have just gotten divorced, and his dad is a long-haul trucker. So he drives really far away, and it isn't always practical for him to call Lee and talk to him on the phone, and he doesn't get to see him in person very often. So Lee has lots of questions about that and worries about his dad and his dog, who stays with his dad now, because he can't see them very often. He's also really worried about his new school and the fact that someone keeps taking the good stuff out of his lunch, but he can't figure out who. So, in this book, you'll find out what Lee does to protect his lunch. You'll find out if he figures out who's taking his food. You'll also find out how he develops as a writer, how he learns how to write, and what he can do with that writing and those stories that he tells. So this is Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary. The next book that I want to talk to you about is one that also is about a journal. This is called When I Hit the Road by Nancy J. Cavanaugh. And this one's brand new. It just came out this year. And it is the story of Samantha, who lives with her mom. And her mom is really worried because her grandma has just moved really far away to Florida. And so Samantha and her mom go down to Florida to see her grandma for the summer. And when they get there, her grandma is a totally different person. Her grandma is driving a red convertible Mustang, and she is entering karaoke contests. And she talks all the time about playing pickleball with her best friend Mimi. And this does not sound like the grandma that they used to know, the grandma that used to make you take your shoes off so that you wouldn't get dirt on her nice white carpet, the grandma that never let you talk too loud in case you accidentally broke some of the china in her house that was super fancy and super expensive. And honestly, Samantha likes this new grandma more, especially when the new grandma takes her on a road trip across the state of Florida to enter even more karaoke contests. So throughout this entire road trip, Samantha is writing in a journal. Her mom is somebody who works to make lots of different kinds of stationery, lots of stuff to write on. And her mom has this great new idea for a Dear Me journal, where you write letters to your future self about things that have happened today. Samantha thinks this is a dumb idea, but her mom gives her one of these journals, and so she's writing anyway to her future self to try to remember what happens this summer. So this is a funny one because there's lots of crazy things that happen when they are on the road for a karaoke competition in the red convertible Mustang. All right, so the last one that I want to tell you about is a little bit different. This one isn't told entirely in letters or journals, but it is called Posted by John David Anderson. And this is the story of a school, Branton Middle School, where cell phones are banned. And I don't know if cell phones were ever banned at your school, but the kids realize, they've lost all of their ways to write to their friends in the middle of class and leave notes at their lockers and all those things that kids like to do, you like to do at school, right? You want to be able to talk to your friends. You want to be able to say something that happened in an earlier class, or, I'm so tired of this math homework. So 4 of the kids in this school, our main character Frost and his 3 friends decide, we could just leave each other notes. We could just leave each other Post-it notes. And soon the entire school is full of these Post-it notes. Now the problem is that the Post-it notes don't solve the problem that the cell phones were causing, which is that some of the kids are not leaving very nice notes to each other. Some of these kids are bullies. Some of them are being really mean to other students and other teachers and other people in the school. And so the school has to figure out what to do about bullying through Post-it notes. Also, the 4 friends that we're following throughout this book have to figure out what to do with a new kid. A girl, Rose, shakes things up by coming to sit with them at lunch. She's brand new to the school, and these 4 boys have been friends for a while, and they think they are a group. They think nothing can separate them. But will Rose pull them apart? How will having her in the group change the entire dynamic? So this is Posted by John David Anderson. So I thought, since we were talking about epistolary books that are told in letters and emails and text messages and journals, that we could talk about those things. Now, I think you probably already know how to write an email. May have done that once or twice. You're probably better than I am at texting, honestly. But I'm not sure if you've written very many letters. I don't know, maybe you write a lot of letters, but on the off chance that you haven't, and now all of a sudden you're finding yourself stuck at home and want to find a way to write to a friend, and you like getting mail and you're hoping this friend will write back. Let's talk about how to write a letter. So you can write whatever you want on the inside of your letter. The main things to remember, the things that are important or else they won't get to your friend, are how to address the envelope. So we're going to go over how to address the envelope today. And I have my pretend envelope right here so that it's big enough that we can see it, right? So the thing to remember about an envelope is that you want this corner up here for your stamp. So you don't want to write anything up here. And this corner up here is where you're going to write your address. This is what you call the return address. So this is if your letter can't be delivered, or if the person you're writing to wants to know how to write you back, you want to write your name and address up in the corner here. So I'm going to write mine. Let's see. I am Erin Tobias. And I'm going to use the library's address. 1 Penwood Avenue. We are in Pittsburgh, PA. That's Pennsylvania. Every state has its own 2-letter postal code. So Pennsylvania is PA. If you need to know a different state's postal code, you might need to look it up. And our zip code is 15218. So everyone has their own zip code. Here, I'm gonna erase this line now that we know where our return address goes. So sometimes someone you know lives in an apartment or a duplex or something else where they need to have more than one part of their address. So sometimes you'll have an extra line here, or you'll just put like number 2 is my apartment number or something like that. But you want to make sure that you have your city and your state and your zip code. You can also, if you run out of space, if your city has a really long name, you can write your zip code a little bit underneath. The main thing is that you don't want to go too far over, because then it will get in the way of where the post office puts their information. So now we want to write the address of the person that we're writing to. So this is where it can get tricky. Even if you call your grandma, you probably want to write her real name on the envelope to make sure that the post office can deliver it to the right person. Today, we're going to write to Joe Schmo. And we're going to address this to the address of our Forest Hills branch, which is at 4400 Greensburg Pike, and that's in Forest Hills, PA. And remember what happens if we run out of space? We can put it a little bit underneath. 15221. All right. We could also write up here, instead of Joe Schmo, we could write the name of the building or the name of the library. But if you're writing to a particular person, you want it to get to that person. If I needed to get to go to Joe Schmo, I'll put his name at the top. But if I just needed to go to C.C. Meller, Forest Hills, then I'll put that at the top. So this you want to make sure is big enough to read. You also want to make sure that it's in the middle, going towards the right side here of your envelope. And you want to make sure that it doesn't go too far down at the bottom, because the post office often puts a little bit of, there's sometimes like a little piece of tape with a barcode that helps them sort it. It goes on the bottom of your envelope. Sometimes if you look at a postcard, here I've got a postcard handy, you may notice that there's a little spot at the bottom that says this area for official postal use only. So you don't want to write there because they may put their sticker or their barcode over it. Same thing at the bottom of an envelope. You don't want that there. But then, once you've got your envelope addressed, you're going to need a stamp. So we're going to use a pretend stamp because we have a pretend envelope. But you want to put it up in the top corner. And you want to make sure that it doesn't come off of the envelope because you don't want it to peel off accidentally. This is really important. This shows that you've paid your money for the post office to be able to send it. The other thing that you want to check is to make sure that your stamp is for the right amount of money. It will either have an amount, like it'll say 42 cents or 2 cents, or it will say forever on it. And the forever stamps mean that no matter if the postage goes up or down, it will always be the right amount for you. It can be slightly cheaper, and so sometimes people like to send these instead, to send a postcard. And a postcard usually has a picture on one side, or if you make your own postcards, you can put your own picture on one side. And then on the back, it has the same space on the right for you to write the address. But you may notice there's not a space for you to put your return address. So in this case, you're not going to get to write your return address. Instead, it has a line down the middle so that you know that you can put your writing, your message. Dear Grandma, thanks for coming to visit me. I hope to see you again soon. You can put that message on once on the left side, and then you can put the address on the right side. So now you know how to address an envelope. You put your return address up here so that someone can write back to you, or so if there's a problem and your envelope can't be delivered, the post office can bring it back to you and let you know that it happened. And on the right side, you can put the address of the person that you are sending it to. And make sure you include the zip code, the state, the city, and the full address. So I hope that means that you will get to send some letters to your friends or your family or someone else that you know and love in this time when you might not get to see them face to face. Who knows, maybe you will start to be pen pals. Maybe you'll write letters back and forth and you'll be able to collect them in your own book later. Or maybe you can just write pretend letters and tell your own story. I hope that you enjoyed the books that we were talking about today and that you get to send some of your own mail. And until next week, I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next time for another middle grade moment next Thursday. Bye.